I want to say welcome to everyone, to the board, of course, for another meeting, to the committee for yet another meeting this week, and to members of the public who are coming and have really shown a lot of interest in this subject. Thank you for that. We have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor then of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, agenda's approved. Before we start, I'd just like to say one thing to the members of the public who are here. This is a time for board discussion and comment with the administration, with the committee, and we would ask that no comments come from the public at this time. So thank you for adhering to that. With that, Dr. Welker.
Okay. It has been a very busy week as we held a forum on Tuesday night, the second forum on dress code. Appreciate all those that came out for that. And then we did have a committee meeting last night after school. Appreciate, I know the committee's been out 3 nights in a row now in terms of this topic, and appreciate that. What we want to do this evening first, I think, is to obviously we've gotten a lot of input from the community through different emails and through the forums, and the committee took that information and discussed much of that information in their meeting last night, and they do have, I think, some revisions that they would like to propose to their original proposal. And so at this time I would like to turn it over to Ms. Carla to let her highlight what those changes are, and we'll start off there.
Yes, okay. All right. First of all, I wanted to say something about the committee. I wanted to thank them because they, all of the people here volunteered to serve, and they have spent many, many, many hours on this, and we were here last night, and they've been very diligent about attending the forums and being here tonight, and many of them have families and small children, and so I do thank them for the time that they've put into this. And it's a very passionate issue, and they've heard a lot of comments, pro and negative, and been very professional in how they've handled it, and I really appreciate that. We did meet last night, and after listening to parents at both forums and reading, we have had many emails about dress code. We looked at the most common concerns, and so we decided that it was appropriate to make some adjustments. So I think you all have copies of our adjusted policy, and I'm just going to go through the changes that we made. First of all, for our shirts, we kept that they should be a polo style shirt, but we changed from 4 colors to any color would be acceptable. So that was one big change. We also decided that even though many of us wanted shirts to be tucked in because of the sagging issue, which is huge at the secondary level, and we felt that by tucking in that might help that issue, we said that shirts would not have to be tucked in, but if they were not tucked in, they could only be wrist length when they were hanging out. If they were longer than wrist length, then they needed to be tucked in. So that was a concession that we made on shirts being tucked in. We would like to respectfully ask that if you would approve this, that in the next year, if that hasn't helped our sagging issue by still allowing shirts out, that you would we could revisit that issue in a year after we've looked at how the policy is working. Another change that we made to the pants, we added another color of navy, so that we went from tan and black to tan, black, and navy. We changed because the shirts are out, at the secondary level, we would still like belts because of the sagging issue, but we do not, we are not going to limit belts to any color or style. So that was a change. And we also, under spirit wear, added that denim could be worn on spirit days. And of course, spirit days will be designated by each building principal. So those were most of the, those are, I believe, are all of the changes that we made to the actual dress policy.
I think the other changes that have been made to the original back in December were due to just the wording suggestions that we received from Missouri School Board Association. So there, you will find some wording changes that were recommended by MSBA that were incorporated. So, and actually, when we do come up with a final proposal, then we will actually send that back to MSBA again for a final approval. I believe that would be the normal process, would it not be, Mr. Glass? So I guess that, any questions for the committee? Or?
Go ahead.
I just would like to ask, and this is, you know, looking at this like as a dialogue, because obviously we haven't been really privy to the process that you've gone through. One of the largest concerns that has been brought to me personally has been the non-inclusion of jeans that are in good, good repair. Specifically, people have stated, well, you've been looking at Scott City and have been quoting their data, their statistics, but jeans is one of the things that they allow. What was your motivating factor for eliminating that from the proposal? Sure.
When we discussed jeans, due to the array of jeans, we have jeggings, we have tight jeans, skinny jeans, sagging jeans, low riders, high riders. I mean, we have every range of jeans there is, and that is one of the issues we see with immodesty at the high school, and I'm speaking for the high school, is low riders and I realize they can be in khakis also, but when you sit, you do see bottoms with the sagging, because the pants can sag low. With the tightness of jeggings, it leaves nothing to the imagination. There's just such a big, vast majority, and it still leaves us very subjective on who is too tight and who is not too tight and who is too low and who's not too low. I realize there will be subjectivity in any decision made, but that is one area that we do have to make decisions on every day, and we have to make a call on that, just like we want our tops buttoned up, because who's to say what's too much cleavage? So if we have it buttoned up, there's less subjectivity.
Have any discussions been made with Scott City about kind of an overview of how it's gone this year related to their jeans policy, if it had been a problem related to those issues?
I have nothing, I don't know.
That was, I do know that it was not in their original proposal, and that just a little bit was said was that they did not want to put it in their original proposal, but they ended up putting it in just because of parent comment.
Might be interesting to know as a follow-up how that's worked or not.
I wonder too if that could be, because I'm with Tony. That's a huge question that I've heard so much about. If that particular issue with jeans,
And I
could
will
be.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, we were unanimous in feeling that we should not allow jeans even on Fridays, that only on spirit days. Everyone felt very strongly about that issue. And again, it's if we say, yes, you can wear jeans, and they come to school and they will be skin tight. Or if you guys are familiar with the jeggings that look just like leggings, and there's no way you can tell the difference unless you go up and touch them, which we don't want to do. But they're skin tight. It's just we felt that it would be very, very difficult to enforce a policy of modesty and professionalism, which is what we're striving for, if we allowed jeans every day.
So is it an issue kind of district-wide that is, or especially in the secondary schools, that is taking up a lot of time? And, I mean, is it safe to say you all feel that that's a key problem? I mean, jeans, just...
Yes.
I've had many instances being a physical education teacher at Amistad to where kids have not been able to perform for me because their jeans are too tight, or because when they're doing their stretches, I see bottoms, and then other kids behind them start to tease, and I have to shut that down immediately. So I see it also as a problem on the elementary level too. So I wanted to add that.
I might add, I was at the last forum, and several parents had their children stand up. One was a high school age girl, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Beth, do you remember who you were talking about? Was she high school, young high school? And the parent held her out as an appropriate dressed girl. And I don't know her, don't know the family, and took the parent as a word. Well, before the meeting ended, forum ended, she had occasion, the student did, to walk back up the aisleway towards me. And I was sitting on the right. I think you were sitting behind me a little bit, Mr. Smee, over to the left. I was sitting next to an employee of the district here, and she turned. First of all, she bent over. I didn't notice anything. She turned and walked just like a student would walk down the hallway. But while she was walking, her blue jeans had no belt, slipped down below the appropriate level. Her shirt was up 4 or 5 inches between where the belt should have been, and we saw bottom, me and so I asked him. I said, "Would you turn that girl in?" He does not work at the high school. We get into the male situation there. He said no, he wouldn't have done it. But she was obviously, even though the parents thought she was appropriately dressed, and probably while she was at home and the shirt was pulled down, didn't need to be tucked in. But when she walked, just a simple act of walking, she wasn't trying to show what she had or anything like that. It would have been inappropriate. And I think that was, in a nutshell, what you all as administrators and teachers face every day. Somebody's got to make that call, and it was inappropriate.
You're bringing up something that I had not considered or heard about until the forum the other night, and that's something I wanted to ask you all about. The issue of particularly our male teachers having to deal with students, especially females, who they may consider to be inappropriately dressed. And I believe one teacher, a female teacher, stood up and said that the male teacher across the hall has to come get her. She has to deal with the student. But could somebody, Nancy, or go into that a little bit more? I'm totally ignorant of what all that involves.
At the high school, and I'm the only female administrator up there, so I basically deal with every female dress code issue. The male administrators obviously will bring them to me, but the final call is me, because it's more appropriate, and I believe it's more appropriate, because I don't, I have daughters also, for me to make that final call, and it makes the students feel more comfortable. It's very, very uncomfortable for many female students to have a man look at her and say, "Honey, that shirt's just way too low." I mean, they do it because it's part of the job, but it is very uncomfortable. We also do have male faculty who don't want to touch that at all, because there have been lawsuits and have been accusations, and we've dealt with accusations that he's just picking on me and he's just looking at me. Those thankfully don't happen every day, but it is there, and it is an issue. And luckily there are females who are willing to step up and do it, but it takes away from the class period. Laurie was the one who mentioned that. It does take away from the class period to get a female down. It takes longer for us to get our kids back in class too, when the male administrator brings them into the office, but is still uncomfortable stating it, so finds me, and then I come, and that's our main goal, is to keep them in the classroom as much time as possible. And so the less distractions we have, the less dress code violations, the sooner we'll get them back. And, you know, the males are uncomfortable, so.
I had experience. I had principals, male principals tell me that they would not do it. They would either get the secretary in the office to go do it, and sometimes counselors, although counselors don't like to get involved for some reasons. And but it's 50-50 on the principals, the male principals I had.
Well, the flip side, though, then is I mean, we have an overwhelming number of female teachers who apparently have to deal with male students with low pants or whatever. I just didn't know if this is something you all have to deal with.
No.
Yeah, and it's not as uncomfortable because the girls actually have cleavage hanging out, where it's actually seen, it's actually flesh. Boys have their pants sagging, where you're usually looking at underwear, boxer shorts, and so it's a little less uncomfortable. And most boys, not all boys, tend to be a little less sensitive about that approach, and that's a kind of a cool look for them.
Girls are more emotional when it comes to that.
I know that when I ask the boy to pull up his pants, I often get the remark, "Stop looking at my butt, why are you looking at my butt?" It never has gone further than that, but that is a very common remark to being asked to pull up your pants.
And I'm sorry, what school are you in?
The alternative education facility, so I'm
Junior and senior high.
My question is, with wearing khaki, navy, or black pants, do you feel like those are not going to sag?
That's why we're asking for a belt. Even under a shirt being out, since we've conceded on the shirt not being tucked in, that they still have a belt on that would keep their pants up.
Okay, and even with the belt, if it's not pulled tight enough, it can allow the pants to sag. So once again, we're going to be dealing with...
And that was something we discussed yesterday. I mean, many of us still wanted the tuck-in. We wanted shirts tucked in for that reason. We thought that it would make a huge impact on the sagging, but because we heard so many people say that they felt that a lot of students would be uncomfortable because they might have extra weight, we decided to go ahead and allow the shirts out. But they still require a belt, at the secondary level only.
Well, I mean, I have a son, I have 2 daughters and a son, all in the district. And I know, especially with my son, who's overweight, even with the shirt tucked in, it rides out. His pants, it's hard to keep up because his belly pushes the pants down. And even if his shirt's tucked in and with the belt, he has an issue if he's going to bend over of sagging. So I think we're not solving the problem by going from jeans to the colored pants. So I'm just wondering, how is it going to cut down on checking what they're wearing and you know, because I think that's the issue, is having to stop class time to deal with this. I think it's still going to be an issue.
Well, one of the, you know, the way society is now, the boys wouldn't want to sag as much because they're not wearing their Sean Johns or their, you know, girls in their apple bottoms and things like that. If you have them just khakis, it's a different trend. So you're not going to want to sag as much in your khakis as you would your Sean Johns or your fashionable jeans. I mean, that's reality.
But that's also speculation, right?
But it's reality.
Well, and I
It's
think
what we-
one of the things we talked about too is the difference in jeans. You know, there's girls that are spending $200 on a pair of jeans, and that's very easy to distinguish. Yes, you can buy expensive khakis, but you're not going to look at someone's khakis and know right off the bat they spent $100 on those khakis. But you can look at a pair of jeans and you know by that brand how much those kids spent. So if we talk about one of our reasons was leveling the playing field, eliminating jeans helps eliminate that issue too.
Well, and on that also is within, I know it says within undershirts and tops, but we want all clothing to be within one size of proper fit. So that would totally not totally, it would help eliminate the extra sagging, because like right now, even when I worked at the Alternative Education Center, also, they purposefully buy them 3 sizes too big, you know, so that the sagging can get comfortable. However, if you ask for the khakis or the clear type pants,
Okay, so I guess my next question is, why wouldn't we do that now with the jeans? If they're not within one size of fit, then we deal with the same discipline that would go with the new proposal.
Besides the sagging with the jeans is the skinny jeans that I would say most of the girls at my school wear excessively tight jeans because of those skinny jeans or those jeggings. So khakis are not typically in that style of skinny khakis or super tight khakis, and so to me the jeans is really on the how tight the girls wear them, because with the jeans for the boys they could sag with those as well, but as Lori was saying, if they're within the one size, we'll hopefully stop that issue.
So is it not a possibility to have in the dress code of no skinny jeans or no jeggings? Of making it very specific, and if those things are worn, then it's a discipline referral?
I would say absolutely, but I would say that's the one we were just talking about. You would have to go up and touch, and it becomes that subjectivity of are her jeans tighter, and then we go back to the size thing, because larger girls their cut jeans could be tighter, but they don't see them as tighter. I mean, it becomes a weight issue too, and so we're trying to take that subjectivity out there. We're trying to level the playing field. Nothing is going to be. I mean, we will still have to do our discipline and our dress code issues with khakis or black pants or brown pants, or if jeans are still in there, we'll still have it. But I believe that by taking the jeans out of the equation, that we look more professional, that we are going to be more modest, that the kids will be in the classroom more, and I do believe that the pants will be up higher. It is not really a in-trend cool thing to sag in khakis. I am forced to wear khakis.
It might be
There is
next
such
year.
a-
It might
I mean, but I'm just saying, that's my belief. That's my belief, so.
I know that I was one that made a comment at our meeting yesterday about the skinny jeans. We don't see it a lot at the elementary, but I have a daughter in high school, and the problem that I have with it is the subjectivity. Because again, you know, when we're talking about, is this shirt too low, is this shirt not too low, if we make it, you know, everybody's the same, it takes the subjectivity out. And with jeans, I think it is huge with what's too skinny and what's too tight, and what's too tight on this girl may not be too tight on that girl, and the overweight kids. I think it opens up a huge can of worms at the secondary level, whereas I can see some moms, you know, the jeans my daughter wears, I think they're fine, but I don't know if everybody else is going to think that too. So I think it's a lot grayer area with the jeans.